This is episode number 383 of WP Watercooler WordPress. How did we get to 40%? Brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out at serverpress.com. Support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPWatercooler. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
I'm Steve Zangen. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Hey, I'm Faye Reed on the internet at Faye Reed Media and all the things. Preach fake word, Jason. What? Ah!
Hi, I'm Jason Cosper.
Go over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to us over there. Hit the little 5-star button on the bottom there. Give us a rating. We'd love to have that happen. Hey.
Wait, we have a 4.3?
Yeah, 4.3. That's pretty good.
Out of how many?
It's better than
Out of
40%.
5.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if it's out of 10, then that's not so good.
Yeah.
Not bad. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, y'all.
Guys.
I thought just mix it up. You know, why not?
That was a fun intro. Sorry, I literally have one line and can't remember it.
Well, that and your speakers are also
shot.
playing too, so we end up hearing the music as an echo, which is always fun.
Oh no.
Sorry.
You know, I keep saying I'm going to get my act together.
No.
But let me tell you, I also said I was going to set up my phone that I've had since June. And I finally did it. So I also, I come through just real slow.
Set
Maybe-
your phone? Is it?
So he's like,
is it
did
a-
you know you could get text messages on your Mac?
Is
And I was
it a
like,
cell phone
yeah.
or is it a cordless phone with an answering machine? What is this thing?
No,
that you're saying,
I knew you could get text messages on the Mac. It just wasn't on the Mac. It just wasn't connected properly because I have a lot going on in my life.
What?
it sounds like that would make it easier to make things go, but all right.
Okay,
Well,
I am not the topic of today's show.
Well,
I think we just switched
I mean,
topics.
I'm more the topic of the show, you know what I mean? But no, the real topic of the show is. Wait, hold on.
40%.
I was going to say 40%, but then I was like, maybe it doesn't matter if it's just like, you know, how major releases and minor releases don't matter anymore. Like maybe 40%, it's like, whatever. It's the same as like.
Wait, 40% out of how many?
120%.
Oh, okay. Like anybody can get to 40% if you just change the top number. Like, you know, if it's not out of 100%, then, you know.
Well, just like you asked me just a minute ago, you know, is it
Yeah.
out of 5 or out of 10?
We don't know.
Could have been out of 50.
We do know. It's the W3 stats. The classic stats.
All right.
I've been
So
watching
what-
this
so
tick
what-
up. I mean, we've all been watching this tick up, but
So-
I've been doing a talk every year about WordPress at a conference for the last, I don't know, like 7 years. And every year, one of my first slides is, what's it at now? And it's just been like slowly ticking up. And so it'll feel good to like get out of the like 39.3.
So 40% of what? Like let's start there. What's I get it. I'm not saying I know it's 40 out of 100. I get that part, right? But 40% of what? Like what is this? What is this?
Out of all of the sites on the internet.
So out of all the
market share of content, this is of content management systems in total. So not the entire internet. This is 40% of content management.
That's why I wanted to be clear, right? We're not talking 40% of the entire internet being run on WordPress. We're talking about 40% of sites that have a content management system are using WordPress as their content management system. Is that
however, that does not stop companies from saying 40% of the internet runs on WordPress.
No, wait. So look, here's the actual verbiage.
okay?
from W3.
Would you like me to read it to the audience?
I mean, you are pretty good at reading things. So
yeah, WordPress is used by 40% of all the websites. That is a content management system market share of 64.3%.
So we were wrong. So 40% of all the websites and 64.3% of the sites that use content management systems.
All right, so it's true that if we say 40% of the internet is run on WordPress, that's a true statement.
Yes.
Of the entire internet.
Yes.
I mean, Dreamweaver's still doing pretty good at 0.2%. I mean, they're killing it.
I wouldn't expect it to be that high, frankly.
In Webflow.
The interesting thing is the stat that doesn't exist.
So stop there. Actually, Jason,
stop.
Stop right there. So WordPress
is creeping up.
I'd make it bigger, but this whole website's built with tables, and so the table span isn't working correctly.
Apparently, this website is not built on WordPress. So you got it's one of the 60%. But this is what's interesting about this table that you're showing is WordPress is 40%. The next one down is Shopify at 3.3%. Right. So that's a 36.7% gap between WordPress and the next one down. Right. And then everything else is 2% below. I'm surprised that Joomla is at 2.1%, frankly.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this, and this is something I talk about at that conference, is how the perception of, especially here in the US, of Shopify and Squarespace, incidentally, which used to both be in the smaller digits there, like Shopify used to be in the 1s and the 2s also. It's really getting a push. But the perception is that they're equal. Like they're running the same amount of content, like that they're about the same, or that even because of Shopify's marketing budget and Squarespace's podcast sponsorship, that they are everywhere and dominant, or equal to roughly WordPress's level of share, which is pointedly not true. So that this just emphasizes to me how important perception is in contrast to facts.
Squarespace.
You learn anything from the current state of the US.
Squarespace and Wix together are 3.1%, which is less than 10% of what WordPress is doing, right? And that's together.
That's right? A WordPress rounding error.
Yeah. So that I think this is a very interesting chart. I want to know what typo 3 is. Never mind. It's not important. It's not important.
What's really interesting is that Blogger's still on there, because isn't that so those are like legacy sites. The data we need from this, however, what this doesn't say, and I can speak just for my own personal single-use person, is how many websites, how many empty, half set up WordPress websites there are that I know of that are my fault and my problem out there on the internet being counted as part of that 40%. And this also includes WordPress.com. So all of the free spun up sites that anyone was like, oh, late at night on a weekend, and because that's what on a weekend, you gotta go spin up a website, right? Wow.
No.
I'm like crazy.
No.
Well, what this doesn't tell us is how many of these are WordPress.com sites versus WordPress hosted sites.
No, this is talking about the software, right?
Yeah, but it's not like cars where you can make like a bootleg Ford. Like you can't make a bootleg Ford and get it counted on.
Ford?
Like a Ford car or something like that. Like, you can't have like a bootleg version of this. It's like WordPress. You have WordPress.com, and then you have WordPress.org's downloaded, installed, and hosted elsewhere solutions.
All lumped in, but they're all running the same software, essentially, right? I know that there are modifications at WordPress.com, but they're essentially running the same piece of software, which is what this chart is showing us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I was waiting for you to say something profound.
Me, never. You're gonna be waiting a long time.
I guess the thing is how would you find that? How would you find that stat? Like, how would you find the stat of how many? Like, do you think WordPress, whichever entity of WordPress you want to think about here, automatic WordPress, whatever, do they know how many sites are hosted WordPress.org sites versus WordPress.com sites?
They have the versions, but I don't think they have the .com versus the .org. But what they do have is another interesting thing, which is how many percentage of sites are running WooCommerce.
Go back to that. Pull up that chart again, Jason.
Okay.
And
click on WordPress.
That's the link I just posted in the chat.
I know. I just wanted. Let's discuss it. Let's look at it.
Really?
I'm bringing it up.
I'm bringing it up. Narrating him. So
this is interesting, right? So click on WordPress. Let's look at the top. The top thing first is the versions of WordPress. I think this is very interesting, right? Is version 5 is the top version of WordPress, which is at 86%, but still version 4 has a significant number, and some people are still running version 1, right? It still shows up on the chart. It's less than 0.1%.
I mean,
1%.
Those are dead sites out there. There's not like any alive sites running that.
I get it, but here's what's interesting. If you combine 1, 2, and 3, it's less than 1% of all the WordPress versions that are out there. So that's good. Right?
I want you to know you can also click on version 1 and you can see who's on.
No. oh God.
It gets more divided. Like, look at that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I see it.
Look at that. 1.1 or 1.0.
But here's go back one more page. Here's what's a shame on this chart. Go back one more. Is that WP Bakery is being run on 16% of all.
Visual Composer will never die.
That's a shame.
Knives in the heart.
We need to find a way to reduce that number. We need to reduce that number as much as possible.
A bunch of people are running old Visual Composer.
I see it, right? At least they've updated the WP Bakery. That's still bad.
But did they though? Did they update, or did they just download another theme from ThemeForest that had a pre-built and installed?
Either way, it updated for them. Right?
How many of them are still using demo content from ThemeForest?
What the hell is Grand Flaggery?
32.6%.
Y'all, what is Grand Flaggery? Flag Gallery?
What is Envira? Where do you see that?
Grand Flaggery. What is that?
Flaggery?
Flaggery.
I'll let you do a Google search for that.
Grand Flaggery.
Yeah.
Anyway, back up to the top of the chart. I think the other thing that's interesting here is 20% of the WordPress sites are running, nearly 20% are running WooCommerce, right? So that's actually pretty significant.
Yeah, that is.
That's what I was saying. That matters.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to do the math on 20% of 40%?
Sure, it's 8%.
There you go.
Oh, it's so cool when people can do math in their heads. I'm always so impressed. And then I'm like, hold on.
So that means
I'm going to get a calculator.
That means 8% of all the sites on the internet are running WooCommerce.
Wow.
That's a lot for it being damn clunky.
That is
now,
a lot.
Sorry.
Compare that to on the first page where we're going over all the CMSs, and Shopify was on that list. And where was it at?
3.3%. So that means that Shopify is less than half of the WooCommerce sites.
More maths. I like it. Yeah. Well, so the thing is that this has been, this is I've been watching this number. I don't know that you guys don't come here probably every year and get as excited about this, but I like data and statistics. So I come here every year and pull this data out. So it's been fun to watch it. I know, of course, Monsieur Mullenweg obviously looks at this because it's his. I don't know why I did that. He obviously has been watching this because this is like one of those unspoken doctrines of WordPress, right? 50% of the web. Isn't that the goal? 50%?
50.
50, right?
I believe there's a project in Automatic that is called Area 51 for them to get to 51%. They want more.
Does that mean at that point that they actually own the internet? Like if you're at 51% of any company, you control that company. So
oh my gosh, this is that number and the 40% number and the idea of 51% of the internet is precisely why Morten Rand Hendrickson is always going off on how the lack of voice and governance that is present in the WordPress community to the outer internet and to the rest of the internet is so disturbing. Like 40% is a huge chunk of the internet, and there is not even anywhere close to representation of 40% of WordPress's voice in the, not even really in the open source world conversation that's happening, let alone the greater internet. Because this number is not about like all open source sites or anything like that. This is everything, so that disparity is, I think, a huge part of the problem. And I know recently Automatic has been going into some conversations with some of the other big companies. I don't have any articles offhand, but I can put some in the show notes to talk about web standards and things like that. But the interesting thing is that it is being done by Automatic, and that entity, and not WordPress, which is the 40%. So it really would be interesting to get the data of how much of that 40% is WordPress.com and how much of that 40% is the rest of the WordPress community. So if anyone has data, I don't know how we would get that. I don't know how they get this. Like, what is, like, who? Wow, that's a lot of spiders.
Yeah, I don't know how you get this.
And say you brought up a good point with Morton. I remember when the news was announced that we hit 40%, that WordPress hit 40%. He was very quick to jump in and say the higher this number grows, the more we get close to like a monoculture on the web. And I mean, we're already at that in a way with Google Chrome. Like everything is, I mean, Microsoft, they develop a browser, but it's basically just reskinned Chrome. Like at this point, like Chrome has won the internet, and we're looking at what that means for web browsers right now. So when WordPress wins the internet, what are we looking at for CMSs?
I stopped listening. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I don't call on me. I don't mean because it wasn't interesting. I got distracted.
I don't know. I was listening. I was listening because I have respect for Cosper, but I don't know that I have an answer to your question.
It's okay. The second I start talking about monocultures, it's like
no, I got distracted by looking up a statistic. See, this is how a person with ADHD's brains work. Okay, you said something, and I was like, "Ooh, browser statistics. Let's look at that."
I'll help you out.
Thank you. No, what I put a link in the chat to go look at the browser statistics.
But let's take a stab at answering Cosper's question. So
yeah, what was it?
First my intro and now this. Say,
I'm sorry.
Jeez,
I'm a bad co-host today.
You're really on one today.
Yeah, it's been a rough month. Okay, it's been a time. Forgive me.
Sure.
Look, right here. I'm right here.
You're right here.
No, so the question is like, now that we're hitting kind of we already have a monoculture in like browsers, and we're seeing what that's doing to the web. What happens for CMSs when we hit when WordPress does become, I mean, we kind of are at this point very dominant, but like even more dominant when it moves to a WordPress monoculture.
WordPress now even more dominant.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, like, the monoculture conversation is a whole other conversation, because WordPress is so different everywhere. Like, everyone's running, it's not the same as Chrome, where it's one set of standards. I mean, that's one of its problems, but also its strengths, right? Like, everyone's got a different setup, different plugins. You're saying
now that we have the block editor, now that we have Gutenberg, I mean, Elementor just raised its prices because I'm sure that they see the market kind of dropping out a little bit as people use Gutenberg as a page builder. They've got to keep their revenue up, so raise the price. I'm not sure that's entirely what their decision was based on, but it had to have played a factor.
Plausible theory.
It just seems like a lot of the Gutenberg type, or all the block editors could get on the bandwagon of block editors and just make block editor better, like make that whole system better, make it so it's
gone
stylable.
So far down their road, you know what I mean, that like to integrate, I mean, Divi, for example, has a block that you can put the Divi builder inside a block inside of a Gutenberg page. So I mean, you can
don't do that though. That causes a rift in the space-time continuum.
But this is
builder. I'm just saying it's there, but I think that the real issue is that it's they've gone in a different direction with their UI, with their back end, with all of that stuff, and then the block editor, doubling down on React and whatever the hell else. They're different.
See, and this is what I'm talking about with the question that Jason raised with a monoculture. Why don't these page builders just go ahead and move aside and make make Gutenberg better? Well, they could, but then they're just slipping further.
Mr. Mullenweg money.
Yeah, they're just slipping further into the monoculture.
Yeah.
They could
at
become.
This point, it is a. Sorry. They could become.
They could become they could become something that could be installed through Jetpack, and then everything wins.
I think at this point, that means that the builders, instead of earning our derision, we're gonna
He's
go.
only good at math. He's not good at words.
Our enmity, no, our scorn. There we go. They have used to earn our scorn. We used to make fun of builders, but now are they holding up more diverse culture within of a way to create than conforming to the monoculture of Gutenberg? So are now they doing the work?
Are they the Rebel Alliance to the Galactic Empire?
Right, exactly. I don't know. Now, I never thought I'd be a champion of the builders. Whoa. But it does feel like
you're a champion of most of the builders, because given our visual composer slander earlier, which is rightly earned, they suck out loud. But they absolutely, all the other ones though, like, yay builders.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I guess you could take this statistic of 40% and look at it from the point of view of how many people have installed either block editors themselves or the blocks themselves, like collections of blocks, or they've installed the classic editor plugin as one of the I don't know how you work out the percentage for that for classic editor, but that might be something to look at too.
Can you show that browser market share page I've been there?
Yeah, no problem.
Because this is basically the monoculture that we're talking about, right? Is we're talking about in browsers. Look, Chrome's not even on the page. Scroll down. There it is.
Variations of it.
Yeah, so like the difference between Chrome up here in the green and Safari down here in the that'd be like Shopify versus WordPress in the future, right? And that's the monoculture that is the direction that it's looking like. Like we don't have a nice chart for the for the ours. There's probably one on there, but this is the monoculture. And what happens? Like so. There's a lot of people who make the argument that just makes Chrome a better product and Chrome is the best product. So why not use Chrome, right? Like what's wrong inherently with the monoculture is, I guess, the kind of devil's advocate I'm questioning, even though the devil has plenty of advocates and does not need my help.
Well, what's weird about this one is that you have WebKit and you have Chromium and you have there's they're essentially variations of those, both WebKit and Chromium. So I don't know. This one's a tough one because it's not like Drupal forked WordPress and made Drupal.
Well, they didn't fork WordPress, but they hasn't there been a project at Drupal? I don't keep up on Drupal, so I don't know.
They have the block editor. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So you do have some spillover into that sort of thing.
So, but I'm asking that. So, Steve, Jason, like, what are the negatives there that you see? Like, what if, isn't it like, and this is kind of the vision that Matt espouses, if it's, a good product and it's helping everyone get on the internet, then what's wrong with it being at this percentage?
Oh, like, I'm glad you asked that question.
Oh, okay.
we only have 3 minutes left, so there's a lot of answers,
buddy.
Right? I mean, frankly, from a web serving standpoint, if I've built somebody's site on WordPress and they want to move, or we need to move for some reason, or we just don't agree with the philosophy or the culture, you name it, that can be done, right? There are other alternatives to moving the website. What I'm worried about with having it 40% and having it grow and not having proper governance, the stuff that Morten talks about and all that stuff, is the people that are doing business within the WordPress ecosystem, right? Like the page builders that we're talking about, like people that run premium plugins, because every little decision that's made could affect somebody's business and ultimately their livelihood, right? And those decisions are now, those businesses, right? Those theme companies, those premium plugin companies, those people that are doing business within the WordPress ecosystem, those are becoming big businesses, right? So the even little decisions can have big effects on what's that?
They're huge businesses. Like
they're
GoDaddy,
huge businesses.
GoDaddy, WP Engine, like WP Engine.
And so, I wasn't even talking about the hosting. I was just talking about people who are creating products within the WordPress platform. Hosting is a whole other business, right? And so the hosting gets affected by those decisions as well, because one little tweak to some piece of technology could throw off a completely could throw off hosting if you've tuned your servers specifically in a specific way. There's all kinds of businesses that are affected by these decisions. WooCommerce, right? So think about the people that are actually running their businesses on WooCommerce and WordPress. You make a decision to make a little change. WooCommerce just got a new major upgrade to version 5. You make a little change, that could affect somebody's business.
I mean, in theory, right, the Chrome situation is that Chrome is making all of those decisions. I mean, Google's making all those decisions for Chrome. Like, that's and it's a private business. No one has any say. So I think the argument would be like, if you participate or pay attention or put in your 5 for the future or whatever, you can at least know what's going on and have a say, even if you don't feel like, if it's not a big enough say. But it's definitely more open, if you will, than Chrome development.
I will say a part where the Chrome, and I know that I was the one to bring it up, but the Chrome and WordPress monoculture thing falls apart is that nobody really gets paid to make extensions for Chrome, but people build businesses, like Steve said, off of WordPress plugins. So like if Chrome makes a change and it breaks a bunch of free extensions, BFD, they're free extensions.
It happens all the time. All of my extensions.
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
Right.
So many screen capture extensions have gone away.
Right, but what do you want for free? But in WordPress's case, like, crap, man, I've got licenses for themes, for plugins, for all of this stuff. Yeah, they make a change.
Capital investments.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to mention training, which all of the training, not just our clients, but also training our teams and developer training and relearning stuff. Like, there's a lot of costs that factor into these decisions across the board. It's not just the money everyone's making. It's also the money everyone has to spend to retrain people and rebuild out their documentation for their clients and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Like that has a real cost.
It does.
Yeah. With that,
So to close it out,
yeah.
how did we get to 40%? It's the same way you get to Carnegie Hall, practice. Right?
It's so deep.
Jason,
so
take
deep.
us out.
Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Go over to Apple Podcasts and hit subscribe. Leave us a little review. Let us know what you thought of us. And if you're going to listen to us again, make sure you share it with somebody else. We'd really appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.